Hello, my people. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Can I get another audio test? Somebody say something.
Something, sir.
All right, cool. Okay, peeps. It looks like this week is your week, finally. Right?
Yes, sir.
Man, right before class, while I was there waiting for the room to be populated, I was just checking through the schedule that we have, and boy, I don't know how we always end up in this situation where we have a good start and we think, say, yeah, man, we're going done long before time and have time to burn, but somehow time just seems to operate differently in this field of architecture, you know? Yeah. Anyway, I do have some module updates for you. Firstly, with the timeline, because we can actually plan our timeline a little bit better now that we know what's happening for study tour. Let me try and bring up the outline for today. I see most. What happened? What happened to the rest of people? Them gone and study tour ahead of you? Or I don't know. What's happening to everybody else?
Maybe some people traveling, or I'm not sure, sir.
Okay. Or it could be the natural progression of class. Usually it kind of tapers down. Speaking of that, I was looking at some statistics with the class earlier, and I'm saying I definitely need to share this with you guys. So I will show you that in just a sec. But first, let's talk about some updates. All right, cool. Let's head over to the class website. I will just bring it up here on my screen. Let me refresh here. Let me see if this thing should be updated. Oh, actually, I'm not sharing my screen. Um, I don't have my monitoring set up today, guys. So you might have to remind me to share screen or audio or whatever. All right. So please remind me if I'm talking like I'm sharing something, but I'm not sharing. I usually have my laptop here that I can see what you are seeing. All right. So can you guys see the screen okay?
Yes, sir. The website.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
All right. So this is our timeline. It has been a little bit outdated for a while because, every minute we keep changing, but I think we probably have it now, right? So this is where we are. We are pretty much, today's what? Today is the 4th. Actually, this is where we are. Right. Today is the 4th. So we're actually right here. Can you believe we are on week 8 already? Right? I mean, in 5 more weeks, you will have no more CSA. Rodrina, how does that make you feel? In 5 more weeks, no CSA. Well, potentially.
Anxious, sir.
I thought you would say happy. Is that happy anxiousness or
No,
or just
just
anxious?
anxious.
All right. Tara says she's happy. Yeah. I do remember packing up studio, packing up my bag and pan because practically that last project, the last couple of weeks was just, you know, and emptying out studio, and it was just like, you know, what am I going to do with my life now? There's no stress. There's just this opening of no more stress at CSA, right? And I mean, it was weird feeling for a while. Like you don't know what to do with yourself. I mean, obviously you need to find a job and all of these things, right? Um, luckily for me, actually, I kind of had a job in the bag, which was due to my final presentation. So guys, never underestimate that final presentation and that end of year show. Trust me, there are a lot of people that come shopping during those times, right? Um, but I remember somebody had seen my final presentation and they was interested, right? That's where I got my first job. But besides that, before we reach there, I mean, I do remember that feeling and looking studio and studio is empty. A place that I've lived for months, literally. Might as well I didn't pay rent at the place I was boarding because I was like hardly ever there. you know, but there is more. There is more to come, right? Who here is going for the masters? Or maybe it's the wrong time to ask because you just want to like leave right now. All right. Nobody? No hands? Who are going for the masters?
Masters in something, sir, just not architecture.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yes, I did say to myself that, gosh, architecture is probably the hardest thing I've ever done. But, after leaving and going into the work world, I was just like, really? Is this I was really complaining about? You know what I mean? So, that thing of you finish with one stage of your life and you go to another. Maybe I don't know if you can remember like when you went to high school and CXC and common entrance was the hardest thing you ever did. Well, PEP, I guess it's PEP now, right? It's the hardest thing you ever did, and then you go to college and you're like, oh, I haven't seen nothing yet. And then you're done with college. Yes, I know you're laughing after me because I said common entrance, but stay with me, stay with me. And then you leave CSA, which is where you're at now, and you're like, there can be nothing harder in life, ever. you know? And then when you go on, then you realize, oh boy, CSA was just like a little blip. You know what I mean? So there is more adventures out there. There are much more adventures that is out there. But what I can tell you though is don't wait too long before you go on your next adventure, right? Whatever it is, masters in something. Because nowadays, you don't want to stop at undergrad, you know? You need, most places you go, the place that I work at now, there's nobody there that doesn't have a master's, and it's not like, it's a normal firm. Everybody have masters, right? Um, so whatever you get the masters in, just continue the journey. Don't wait until it's too long, wait too long and you realize, oh crap, I should have done this a long time. All right. Yes. Anyway, that's enough of my blabbering. Um, so we had to look on our schedule based on what's happening now. So we are here in March. That's pretty much week 8. Oh man, we got 4 more weeks. I thought we'd be done before time, but we're like right on time. We would have had a little leeway, but we do have a holiday that's going to fall on a Monday, which is going to be April 1st. Right. And I believe that is going to be a holiday. So therefore, we are going to end up missing that class. And of course, 2 classes come out for study tour. We kind of planned for that already, though it was a little bit of a rocky road. But yeah, because of that April 1st, we're going to pretty much be right on target. So what does that mean, guys? That means that we can't skip no class. If we skip a class, we're going to be in trouble. Right? So I should be seeing everybody here for all the classes, right? I don't get an amen.
Amen.
The true challenge will come after study tour, you know, and where everybody start demanding stuff. But I have a plan for you guys that will make this module a little easier. I'm coming to that. Okay, so what I'm planning to do is, so the theory assignment was due last week, right? Then we are going to have the practical assignment. I need to refresh this. Let me see. Practical assignment. That is going to be assignment 3. Refresh this. Come on, here we go. Right, so where are we? Right, so practical assignment 3 will start today. Then we're gonna have the next 2 weeks. Oops, hold on, where am I? Right, I should be here. This is gonna take a while to update. Let me refresh again. Okay. Here we go. Right. So the practical, so assignment 2 that was done from the 24th, somewhere around there, 26th. Assignment 3, technically is going to start from today. Now, for the next 2 weeks, right? So we have student and study tour for the 11th and for the 18th, right? So the next 2 classes, you guys won't be here. But notice that we have, what we're going to try and do is allow for the practical assignment 3 to, I'm going to try and tie that in so that you can automatically get that done while you're doing your study tour research as well. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. All right. So that's assignment 3. Assignment 4 is going to be when you guys come back, right? It's a typical 2 weeks to do that assignment. The good thing is that that one, we kind of do half of it in class. So that one should be pretty easy. And over the years, the way how this module has evolved, assignment 4 was always, because usually when we start assignment 4 is when you come back from study tour. And sometimes the schedule is a little bit crazy during that time. So hopefully it's set up a way where it's not very heavy, right? All right, your final project is what is going to come right after that, right? And we will start talking about let me look at this. We will start the conversation about your final project when you come back from study tour, pretty much. Now, the final project for Advanced Computing 2, it's tied in with your design studio. And that makes the project a bit more lightweight, actually. So you guys are having the benefit of the module becoming more and more lightweight. So we actually changed it up about a year ago. And every year we kind of get a little bit more efficient at how we lay out the assignment. So that's all we'll discuss about it for now, that it is gonna be linked to let's say this is 4.8. It's going to be linked to the design studio. 4.8. All right. Right. And I'm updating these things as we go along. Right. Remember, if there's anything you don't remember about the timelines and deadlines, please, please, please use the timeline that you see here, because this is the same timeline that I'm using to do the classes, like literally, you guys. The same schedule that I go by week, as you can see here, is the exact same schedule that's represented in a timeline format. So please check the timeline if you don't remember the due dates and stuff like that. All right. So we're going to try and hold everything together and on time. So pretty much the final project will be due at the end of the semester. All right. And what is supposed to happen with the final project is that you are supposed to be able to take the final project into your design studio presentation. Thereby, you're automatically getting a higher studio grade because you're integrating some of the things that you learn in design in computing. Right? The thing that you do for my module is the same thing that you are going to use for your design studio. So whatever you produce for me, you'll be able to use it for yourself. All right? Everybody understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. Cool, cool. Anyway, we're going to focus on that stuff further down in the semester. Right now, we want to focus on, let me bring up, where's my timeline? Come on. Let me give you an idea of where we are with everything. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Oh, no. It's coming, guys. It's coming. It's coming. It's loading. It is loading. Ah, here we go. Right. All right. You remember we looked at this early on in the semester, right? This here. Right. So assignment 1 and 2, we kind of passed this phase. We're kind of behind because the study tour, which would have been here, has kind of moved up a bit. So we're going to try and keep this stationary. All right. So this is going to kind of drop in the middle of this. So assignment 3 and 4 are called the physical and virtual camera assignments. And then we have the major project at the end. So this is where we are with our computing journey. To be exact, we are here. So you can imagine that we are pretty much, is it week 7 or 8? It's kind of tricky because we kind of had that bump in the road at the beginning of the semester. So we are definitely between 7 and 8, depending on when the module officially started. I think this semester probably got shift back one week. I'm not sure, but we're somewhere here. But you guys would be starting. This is the time period that we do both assignments. So how we're going to keep the schedule is that we are going to be integrating the physical camera assignment with your study tour. So automatically while you're on study tour, you would get it done. All right. Okay, some housekeeping before I jump into the lesson for today. You know what? Let me leave the housekeeping till last so that we can keep focused. All right. Okay. Yes, I'm gonna leave the housekeeping till a little further down. Let's just continue our journey through cinematography and architecture, right? So last week we kind of focused on the technology part of cinematography, right? So we spoke a little bit about the camera, different types of cameras, a little bit of how the camera work. We need to talk a little bit about lighting, but what we're gonna do, we're gonna kind of skip over that, and we're gonna talk about the artistic part of architectural cinematography, right? The reason why we're skipping ahead to that is if we manage to accomplish this, then as I said, when you go on study tour, you'll be able to do your third assignment. And it shouldn't be distracting you from study tour, because on study tour, you automatically do take pictures, right? So you're just going to be taking some pictures that you're going to be giving to me for advanced computing 2. And chances are those very same pictures you're going to be using for whatever delivery mechanism is for your study tour. So in order to do that, we need to get through this part of the architectural cinematography, which deals with the artistic part of things. And then when you come back, we'll try to understand a little bit about lighting, because lighting is going to be important when we start talking about 3D renderings and animation, when we get to the virtual camera. But we're going to switch these two around for today. All right. Okay, so some quick recap. Last week we looked at what cinematography is, and we learned that it's a combination of technology, understanding of light, and it's also art. So it's like it's an art and a science, kind of like what architecture is. It's an art and a science, right? Now, the art part of cinematography.
Exactly is.
There we go. We're going to take a look.
Welcome. I'm so glad you decided to join a class. A lot of people think that my style of photography.
By the way, are you guys hearing the audio?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. I have this nice intro that, by the way, I want to hope you guys know that I'm always learning. Like, I'm always doing some kind of course, some kind of experiment. So, you know, I also attend YouTube University, right? As so do everybody else, I hope. But apart from that, there are other places that you can go to continuously learn, right? There is Udemy. Anybody know about Udemy? Anybody heard that term, that name before?
No, sir.
Udemy? How about Linda? Nobody ever watch any Linda tutorials? No? Skillshare?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, there you go. I gave you 2 to go and check out as well. Of course, all of those cost money. YouTube University is free. That's why we normally go there. But what you will discover very soon is that after leaving CSA, there's so much things that Mr. Williams didn't teach you or your other lecturers, and somehow you have to learn it, and you very soon realize that YouTube might not be as direct with the knowledge, right? Because you know you have to kind of entertain when you're on YouTube in order to drive your views so that you can get more viewership. But when you go to like a course, online course, kind of a website video, it's not about the views, because if it's a paid thing, you already paid for it, right? Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that because that's where some of the content that I have also comes from, not just from YouTube, but from these other places that you can learn. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the art side of cinematography. So let's take a look on this.
Photography is architectural photography, but I feel it's slightly different in that I infuse a sense of emotion that is typically not present in traditional photography in architecture. So my photography journey has been a long, winding road. When I was in high school, I was really into the arts and drawing and illustration. However, I went and studied engineering because at that time I thought that the only way you can make money is to pursue a practical degree. So I went and studied structural engineering. After that, I went and I got a graduate degree in architecture. A few years ago, I started posting on Instagram, infusing that fleeting moment of light, of shadow, of this sense of ephemeral. It really took off and it took a life on its own. And now I have a whole new career. And there's so many great photographers capturing, documenting photography of architecture. And I feel that I can bring to the discipline something new. 5 years into this journey is still a pretty short period of time, and I don't know what the future holds, but I think that's the exciting part. So I'll be sharing my techniques with you today, but infuse it with your own personality and make it your own journey. The first step is learning how to look at the world. By this, I mean paying attention to what's around you and really be in the moment and notice all the small things that you can capture. Next, we'll head out to an architectural environment and see where we can find a great moment to capture. And then we're going to head out to some place completely different. We're going to head out to the beach where we will be using our principle, but in a totally different environment in a natural setting. In the final steps, I will take it all to the studio and we will make our selects and edit our final imagery. In terms of equipment, you can use any.
So there are a lot of places that you can go to kind of get an idea of exactly how you can utilize cinematography in architecture. This is one of them. And we're not going to dive as deep as one of these courses because we're kind of just floating on the top because we do have to move to another topic, right? But I just wanted to kind of show you this intro so you have an idea that cinematography in architecture is an important thing. And automatically, when you go into a firm, you have to generate renderings or you have to take pictures. But whatever you do, you have to do it in a way that inspires. Because a part of what we do in architecture is not just the technical stuff. You have to also inspire. That's how you get clients. That's how you get work. You understand? So you have to have an eye of how to pick these things out. So, was this what we, right. Now, how, I'm going to show you this one in just a little bit. But going back to this little diagram here, we already know about elements of design, principles of design. This is something that we touch on from DDM. It is also something that I suppose you do in studio. Do you touch that topic in studio? Anybody? Principles of design, elements of design?
First year.
Exactly, from first year. It's funny how these things come back around because, well, in a moment, I will know if you remember what these things are. But what happens when you mix that with photography and videography? That's how you get cinematography, right? So those same principles that help you to lay out your sheet or compose your design studio presentation, when you apply that to still images or moving images, that's how we get cinematography. So let me show you just an example of some of the things.
Welcome. I'm so glad you.
I'm going to just pick another short clip out of this again to kind of show you some of the things that you look for when you are trying to be cinematic with architecture, right? And this is whether it is photos or videos, all right?
As photographers, we want the pictures to look fresh and interesting always. Therefore, there are some interesting types of pictures that can be used to create more diverse photo stories. One of these types is using patterns. It is a unique kind of photography which can lead to some dramatic and eye-catching pictures. For a pattern photo, we have to search for repeated shapes, colors, or objects ordered in either regular or irregular formations. The combination of these repeating visual elements lead to pictures which are balanced and interesting. In many cases, the pictures look abstract, and we have to take a closer look at the photo to identify the objects that were captured. Patterns can work very well in architecture photography as there often are repeating elements in buildings, but it is also great for other photography niches. I will start with showing you some architecture photos. This picture is a picture of windows of a building, and I think it looks great because there is this pattern, the repeating windows, and it kind of looks almost like a checkboard. In the next picture you can see that the roof is captured so that there is the pattern visible on both sides, and it is a symmetrical photo that is mirroring itself on the right and on the left side. Here again are some windows, and this time it's more colorful. There are almost like two patterns, the pattern on the top where there are small windows, and then there is the pattern with the bigger windows below the smaller windows. When you capture pattern photos, also take a look at a building in other angles. As you can see here, it is from an angle that looks very abstract, and we can see that the photo is actually rotated, and these abstract photos look very nice and are almost like art pieces that you could just print out and put at your wall. Here's also an awesome pattern where there are these blocks and there are those highlights on the top, the shadows on the right, and the midtones on the front of these cubes. Here is also a great photo which actually looks very similar to the photo I showed you previously, and this time it is not rotated but it is photographed normally. Here we can see how great pattern photos can be created with drones. If you have a drone, try to fly on top of something, fly very high, and turn the camera to the bottom. These top to down shots are very nice, and as you can see here, the buildings create this very interesting pattern. Here is another drone shot, and this is also an awesome pattern with where.
So, come on. We kind of skip here. Right. So, if you remember, I'm gonna say back in the day, since you said it's like all the way from first year, right? when we spoke about principles of design and elements of design, we have pattern, we have repetition, we have contrast, all of these things, and you use that in order to do things from laying out your drawings to even how you lay out your buildings and maybe how you work out your facade and how you do the push and pull of your facade. But when you take that and apply it to photography, it's the same thing that you're doing, but in this case, you are not creating the pattern. You are not creating the contrast, when you choose a graphic and you choose graphical elements. Instead, you are trying to identify it out there with the pictures or videos that you take. Right? So the other thing is that there are rules of composition that overlap with the ones that we already know. So for example, rule of thirds. You're supposed to get that from first year. You guys remember that one? Anybody remember rule of thirds?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. But what happens when you apply rule of thirds, but with video, right? Because if you think about it, for an image, it's easy to say, all right, I'm going to put it on a third on the screen. But then when your video is moving around things get a little bit more tricky, right? So one of the things that we're going to focus on for the physical camera is not necessarily photo images, but video images. As a matter of fact, the assignment is to capture video, not still images. I'm assuming that over the years of doing architecture, and I mean, even last year when you had to do advanced computing one, you guys should already be able to master principles of design as it relates to still images. So I want to talk a little bit about moving images. And this is where I want you guys to be able to this is where you're going to use your devices to collect these videos, right? But I'm going to give you some guidance as to how you should capture these videos. And the idea is that these videos should, if you follow the rules, it should be very much useful for your study tour presentation. So I'm going to show you an example of cinematography in architecture. Let's go back. Oh, sorry, I think I removed that slide. Okay, no worries. It's here. Physical camera. This is it. Come on. There we go. Ah, there we go. I moved it to a different slide, it seems. There we go. All right. So, if you remember at the beginning of the module, I showed you guys this video. This is from one of the Houses of Parliament presentation, right? And if you can kind of see the movement of the cameras, and I'm going to play it again, right? So before you get to the actual presentation, let me pause this here. And I'm playing it without audio because I want you guys to be able to just see the camera movement. So things, for example, like if I ask you the question, how is rules of thirds used in this depiction? Could you guys tell me? Let me see if I can get this full screen.
The line of the column.
Right. That should be full screen for you, right? So let me play it again. Yeah, so what are you saying?
Is there already acting again?
If rules of thirds, can remember that cinematography now is integrating rules of elements of designs, principles of design with videography. So the question is, let's take one of the elements of design. Right? Let's take the rule of thirds. How do you think rule of thirds was used in this clip of the veranda? And of course, it's moving images, so I'm just going to kind of pause it on one of them. Oops. Go back, go back, go back, go back, go back, go back. There we go. Right. How was rule of thirds used throughout this clip that you're seeing here? I'm just going to pause it on one. Anybody?
Yes, sir. Where the guy is sitting in the yellow shirt, he's lined up on one of the lines.
Okay, cool. Anybody
Yeah,
else?
and I think
Uh-huh.
sorry.
Yeah, save some for Jeremy. Jeremy, you were just about to say something.
No, sir, I just joined the meeting, sir, so I'm not even sure what's the rule of thirds.
Okay. We're talking about rule of thirds and as being one of the elements of designs, and we're now watching a video. This is an introduction to the House of Parliament competition video, right? This one is for the firm Atelier Vidal, right? And they had this video presentation done, and then they went into their video next, right? But I'm not going to jump into their video. I just want to kind of concentrate on this live action part. So who else knows about rule of thirds? Who else wants to give it a swing? Can anybody tell me? You can tell me when to pause if you want to pause, how was rule of
Some
thirds used?
understanding of rule of thirds is that your subject must take up 2/3 of the frame. So especially the shot with them on the veranda sitting and talking, this one,
Mhm.
yeah, you notice that they take up a majority of the frame, so you can easily tell who
Right.
the focus
Go back and
the
pause
TV
it,
is
sir.
supposed to be on.
Okay,
That one.
cool. Mm-hmm. All right. Now here is the trick when you're dealing with hang on 1 second. Let me just take this important call. All right, guys. So here is the trick when we're doing moving images in architecture. And you have to remember this because this not only goes for live action, it also goes for 3D renderings and animation. And that is what will make the difference with your renderings, right? But let's learn it from live action first. So the truth is that when you're dealing with moving images, it's going to be hard to kind of focus on a particular element of design because the images are moving. So like when you have a illustration or a graphic, maybe it's a sheet presentation, or maybe it's an abstract piece, or it could be the design of your elevation. All of those things are static. So
Sir,
you
are you
can
going to
kind of
mention that?
say again.
Are you going to mention depth?
Yeah, man. I'm going to I'm going to mention a few other rules of composition. But the point of that I want to get across is that when you're dealing with moving images, there are additional rules that come into play, and those rules are now dynamic because a moving picture is always moving. So you might look on this picture and say, excellent, you can see where the rule of thirds apply, but then it might cut to a frame like this where it's not about rule of thirds anymore. But you look on this and you say, but it still looks great because it still looks what's that word? Cinematic. Right? So obviously they're using other rules apart from the rule of thirds. Right? And of course, there are elements of design now where you talk about lines and patterns and I don't know, like contrast and all of these things. So what happens is almost like saying video, moving pictures is like the next step after you've kind of mastered static pictures. So when you can do a rendering and you can make that elevation line up nicely, right? So let me just grab some images at random here. Yeah, I'm just going to let's look at some renderings. Here we go. I do have some. These are going to be a little bit random, but hold on. I need to maximize this thing here. There we go. There we go. Right. So when you have your rendering, like this, for example, well, this was a kind of an old rendering, but the picture is stationary, so you can kind of have time to process, contrast and rule of thirds and you have so much other things to kind of consider when you have a still image. But when the image is moving, right? So, you can look at your horizon line and you can kind of process this image because it's stationary. The same as it relates to photos, right? So not just with virtual pictures, but also with here we go. Camera and photography examples. Right. So we were looking on some. So here are some other pictures here. Right. So like these are some shots that I took sometime 2 years ago. Right. And it's the same kind of thing where we can kind of focus on it to kind of process. Okay, is this aligned? Is this aligned? How does the principles of design or the elements of design apply to this? What are the patterns, foreground, background, and all these things? But when you are dealing with moving pictures now, like what we see here, things get a little bit more hard to pin down because things are always moving. As a matter of fact, when it comes to cinematography, how you jump from one clip to another has its own rule. So now you're not only concentrating on what you're seeing in the frame, but you also have to keep in mind how you move from one frame to the other. What's the transition, right? So these are additional things that you wouldn't have to deal with when you are doing a static image, right? So we are gonna look at some of the ways in which you can capture architecture, moving architecture, not necessarily just still images, but moving images as well. So I have an example here, and this is something I did recently, right? Let me just try and bring that up here. Okay, here we go. Come on. There we go. All right. So what I have here are some clips, and I want you guys to look at some of these clips. All right. So this is a residence that I was taking some footage of. All right. And I mean, ignore the fancy transition, right? But just look at them as clips. Right? There are some people in some of these as well. Right? So let me ask you guys, is there any, like when you look on some of these clips, there is a sense of it's still capturing architecture, right? Still capturing the architecture, but there is a kind of cinematic motion or movement that is happening while it is being captured, right? Kind of skip back to some of these ones here. So, on top of things like rule of thirds and all of these things that you have been learning, there are now rules of composition that has to do with moving images that you also have to consider on top of the rule of thirds and all of that. So what do you think, Horace? You think your brain can manage to layer all of these rules on top of each other?
I mean, once I get used to it, sir, I think so.
Right. And the tricky thing with this is that why we're doing a physical camera first is because when you are in the field, when you are in the sun hut, taking a video of this monument or building, you are in the moment. And there are things that happens in reality. The sun is hot, rain is falling, people are shouting, cars are driving. So it's kind of tricky to be thinking, okay, rule of thirds. I have to be also be thinking pattern, and I have to be thinking contrast. Like it's kind of tricky to process all of those things at one time if you kind of overthink it. But the idea is that hopefully over the last 3 years, you would have already kind of naturally known the principles of design as it relates to static graphics. So for example, if I ask an architecture student to do a cover page for me, right? As speaking of cover page, did anybody see the cover page for the third year's study tour
Presentation.
presentation? I have it here somewhere.
Looks like a drawing, sir.
Right, it looks like a drawing. They usually do a drawing. And I can even show you the masters one as well. Do I have the masters? I need to save these things in. Okay, here it is, right? How do I do this? Open. There we go. Right. So it's like this. So automatically, when any student that goes through architecture does any kind of graphics, nowadays, but you guys are in fourth year, you're not really getting hung up on, rule of thirds, alignment, proximity, these things, because they almost come naturally to you by now. You can just look on an image and say, something isn't aligned right. It must be this line that's lean, or this composition isn't balanced because all of the drawings are on the left hand side and the right hand side doesn't have anything to balance the left hand side. Nowadays when you guys do that now, it's almost like built in, right? Now, for moving images, it just like with static images, is going to take a little practice, right? But this is a skill that you must have. I mean, look at the trajectory. Remember, we spoke about the trajectory of where the field is going at the beginning of the module, right? We spoke, we talk about the fact that, it started in drawings. Drawings are still there. Everything is renderings now, but now everything is moving, right? So, when you go in an office, your client no longer wants to see a drawing only, but they want to see a rendering. Oh, not just a rendering. They want to see an animation. And where the industry is moving is to real time, right? So almost like a game. So you can click on this cupboard and change it, and click on this roof and change it and all of that. But the point that I'm getting to is that we are in the age of videos, right? I mean, how many of you, when you go to search for how to do something, how many of you look for an article versus a video on YouTube? Right? If you're looking for some instructions, you get a new table and you want to set it up, chances are you're not necessarily Googling, white papers and how to set up this table. You're looking for somebody who has a video on it on YouTube. So learning how to create and manipulate video is like, it's like learning how to use a computer. I mean, it's a requirement now, I mean, my son is 12 years old, but who knows, they probably will be doing video editing in high school, because everybody's a YouTuber now. They know how to edit videos and all of these things. You guys are graduating from university. You can't go in the people them architectural office and don't know how to capture a video. I mean, properly, not just go out there and do some random thing, right? So anyway, so that's what I wanted to get to, that when you guys go out to capture your architecture, what we're looking on today is some of these rules, so that the footage that you capture can look cinematic. They evoke some kind of emotion, just like when you look on a presentation, they should evoke some kind of emotion. It don't just look like you threw a random things together, right? And let's see, I got a lot of windows open, right? And these are going to be some additional rules that we are going to learn today, right? Now you guys are going to jump in the deep end, because normally when we do this, sometimes we go outside and then we have a little class activity kind of a thing. But this time around, you're going in the deep end. Your class activity will be when you leave for study tour tomorrow. Right? And basically what you're going to do is you're going to use these rules of composition to capture pieces of architecture. But when I'm grading you, I'm also going to be looking for the other elements of design that you're supposed to know already, right? So if you give me, what this rule of thirds says, and the thing is on the third, but then the thing that you captured doesn't take into account proximity, contrast, all these other elements of designs, then technically you've only accomplished half the assignment. All right. So we're kind of layering information together. All right. Okay, so the first one and the easiest one is rule of thirds because we have done this already.
Into thirds and put points of interest and importance on one of these lines. When working with landscapes, you want to try and put your horizon on one of these two lines, either on the bottom third or the top third, depending on what's more important. Do you want your viewer to be more focused on the sky, or do you want them to be more focused on the land? When working with people, you want to try and keep them on one of the vertical lines and try and keep their eye line on the top third. And be sure to give them some lead room or looking room, which means whichever way they're looking, you want to put more space in your image in front of them than you do behind them. Also be aware of headroom. It's the distance between the head and the top of the image. Don't cut off people's faces or don't give them way too much space above their head. You want to try and keep their head around that top third of your image. An exception to this rule would be unconventional framing, where you're purposely giving too much headroom, but make sure you have a creative reason why you're doing it so it doesn't come across as just bad framing. Another exception to
Right. So rule of third when you're dealing with a moving image, the way how you capture that is by breaking down your whatever you're capturing into clips. And if you notice, that is one of the things that you see in even this presentation here. You notice that even when we're going through the building, it's not just one continuous walkthrough, right? Every shot is a different shot that kind of focuses on something else. So you might have a bedroom shot here that's looking at the windows. You might have a bathroom shot that's showing you, from top to bottom. You might have a bedroom shot that focuses on the beds. You know what I mean? So, gone are the days when you're doing a walkthrough. Come on. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I got a lot of links open. Where is it? Where are you? Where are you? Okay, here we go. All right. What? Unable to play back? Okay. Okay. That's weird. Okay. Let's try here. Right. So I'm just going to show you it randomly this way. Right. So if you are, but okay. I think Zoom is causing issues. Come on, Zoom. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Never mind. But you guys get the idea that whenever you are, if you remember those walkthroughs that you normally see, and I would almost class this as back in the day, where you go from the porch to the living room, then you turn to the dining room, and then you go to the kitchen, and it's kind of just flowing from one space to another. Nowadays, in order to get that cinematic feel, you break your animation down, you break your movement down into clips. And then for each of those clips, you try to execute it using the rules of composition, right? And one of them is rule of thirds. So that makes it manageable. So for example, this here is on one of the thirds, right? But the objective of this clip is not to do rule of thirds. It's to show maybe the backyard of this building, right? So in order to do that, like I couldn't show this backyard, then come on, or show, let me go forward a little bit. Right. In order for me to show the side here, if I had to now manually walk to show the back, then it would be hard for me to be obeying all of these rules because the clip that I have is too long. So instead, you break it down into smaller clips, and each of those clips sticks to certain rules. So for example, you know, this is using rule of thirds, but it's also using another rule in rules of composition, and that's called a reveal. So it's actually revealing the building, right? This one here is another one that's called a parallax, right? So these are going to be new things to consider on top of the rules of composition. So let's look on another one that's there, right? As you can see, this is the part of the slide where we get up and we go outside and we have to capture it. But we're going to skip that part this time because, as I say, I'm just going to throw you out in the deep end and you guys are going to do this when you go to your study tour, right? So then we have symmetry.
A reflection of water that makes your top and bottom look the same. And here's an example of a symmetrical building. And so I place my subject in the very middle to create symmetry in the image.
So symmetry is something that we already knew from static graphics. But when we're dealing with motion cinematography now, if you want symmetry to be a major part of your clip, then you have to use one of the rules of composition that complements it. So what do I mean by that? Let's look at this here. I think okay, a better example of that would be this one here. Now, if you notice, this clip here is moving.
A reflection of water that makes your top.
These clips that you're seeing as the example, they are moving, but the motion that they're doing is complementing them trying to keep the symmetry. So for example, it would be hard to keep the symmetry in this shot if you were moving from left to right. But if you are moving inward, then the symmetry is kept. All right? You guys understand what I mean? Any questions?
No, sir.
No, sir? Okay. All right. So you say, but I will see whenever you do the next assignment, right? All right. I think all right, let's go. Okay. I think we're gonna take a break and then we come back. We did promise that we would have a shorter class today, right? So what we're gonna do is when we come back, we're gonna go through these different rules of composition, right? Not much of them, right? And as I said, instead of you going outside and doing each one, which is what we usually do, you are going to you're just going to I'm going to just give you some tips on how to do practical things, like how do you go out and capture that. I was looking for this. It was in this slide. and give you some tips on how you use your devices to do that, right? So we're going to get a little bit technical so that when you actually go out there to capture these shots, you know how to handle yourself, right? Because I want you to capture some shots for me and you're going to submit those as your assignment 3. So we're going to look at some of these camera movement techniques, physical camera movement techniques. These are things that you actually have to do with your hands. And then that is it. When you guys go on your study tour, you go ahead and we'll go through the assignment. So we're going to take our usual break and we're going to be back at 6. I noticed that there are just a few persons here, so you can let your classmates know. Let your classmates know that we're going to give out as assignment 3, and my tips and tricks for doing assignment 3 we're going to do in the afternoon session. All right, I'm going to try and keep it short so that you guys can prepare for your trip tomorrow. So let us start. Let's see if we can start exactly at 6 so that we can go through this quickly. All right, guys. Sound good?
Sound good, sir?
Okay,
Awesome.
sir. No problem.
All right, cool. All right, so I will see you in about an hour and 20 minutes. All right. And we will finish up our presentation for today and we will look on the assignment 3. All right, later.